The question is,
Coca-Cola.
no, wait a minute. Dr. Pepper.
No. I got this. All right, here. All right, you gotta make sure the label can show.
Okay.
See?
Okay.
Dr. Pepper, the taste of originality. You gotta get the slogan in there. What's the slogan?
Dr. Pepper. Carbonated prune juice. All right, here we go. So the question is, does the kind of neck joint make a difference in the sound? Absolutely, huge difference. A single cutaway neck joint sounds very different than a double cutaway neck joint. I don't know that a tenon sounds that much different than a dovetail, but how attached the wood is, how much glue there is between the wood and the next piece of wood, all the stuff makes a difference. I think the neck joint is a significant contributor to the sound of a guitar. And these guys that are bolting necks on acoustics and the ones that are gluing them in, I think there's a big difference. I think there's a difference all the way around. I think it makes a difference in how you dry the wood. We tend to spend a lot of time just getting as much water out of that wood as we possibly can. We want it bone dry. I mean, things that wet don't ring as well. They shrink over time. They warp. The wood has not settled in. The question is, if you spend 20 years drying it, is it going to sound better if you spend 2 months drying it? Yes and no. I do know that when I grew up in my attic, all the 2x4s in my attic had all this resin squirting out of them from getting extraordinarily hot every summer and very cold every winter. And I think that process really works. Air conditioning just showed up, right? So all these old violins, gotta air condition the violin. Well, that wasn't going on for a long time. It was bone dry in the winter and humid in the summer. And I think that the instruments actually got better from that process. So I think drying the wood out very, very well makes a difference. I don't know enough about the cellular change if you air dry something over 30 years than if you use a humidity kiln or you use a hot kiln or we use our hot rooms. I don't know enough about the cell structure differences in the I've never done the research for the ring time. I do know that we spend a lot of time getting the water out. So.
Will they stay in those hot rooms for like weeks?
No, it's
almost?
just look.
Days?
It depends, William. If we get it pretty dry and we get it in a hot room and it's pretty dry, we're okay. We start using it. But Martin spends years and years and years drying this stuff out, and it's still too wet. And we spend a much less time. It's like a sponge on a sink. In the summertime, the sponge stays wet and stays soft all the time. In the wintertime, it gets hard as a nail. You ever notice that? Did you ever notice that when your sponge gets really hard in the wintertime? Did you ever notice that? That's because the relative humidity of the house is so much lower in the winter. So there's several glues that work. Obviously, the old hide glues that made the violins works. They used to use something called fish glue in the old days for gluing frets in. We use epoxies for gluing fretboards on. We use Elmer's carpenter's glue for some of the stuff we use. I don't know. Look, what's the deal? You want the wood to be held together really well. You don't want the glue to stop the vibration. You want it to help it, and you don't want to have taken all this time to get the water out and then put it back in. So, what do you do? For when we glue our fretboards on, we use a special kind of epoxy because we spend all this time getting the water out of the fingerboard and the neck. We don't want to put it back in, and rosewoods typically don't want to be held onto by glues, but this stuff holds really well. When we glue a neck in, we use a water glue, The violin makers use hide glue. I think I don't see that big a difference in the kind of glues that you use. I see a much bigger difference in the design and the kind of woods that you use and how thick the woods are and how resonant they are, and you know how tight the holes are that you put the bridges in with, and I mean there's a lot of things that make a lot of difference. But if I glued the whole thing together with hide glue, would it sound about the same? Probably. Absolutely. You stick a clamp on a bell, it's going to change the tone, isn't it? I mean, a truss rod works like a clamp, you know. So I think it's really important, the whole truss rod thing. We are very careful to put the truss rods in without any plastic tube around them. Our whole truss rod rotates in the neck. If the theory is that the truss rod makes a big difference in the sound of the guitar, absolutely. And I've always maintained that, and I've always thought it. Absolutely. The question is whether or not you build the instrument under stress, or it's under stress when it's glued together, whether it makes a difference in the sound. Absolutely it does. To get into the details of it, I think the guitar makers watching this DVD need to do some experimenting. I don't really want to explain it all. Well, look, first of all, I don't understand it all, but I have theories about it. We are picking around at the secrets. You know, all your questions are trying to, okay, just tell everybody. All right, go on, do it. What? I mean, that's what you're doing.
You're the one making it the secret.
William, this is how we make our living.
That's fine.
This is how. Oh, now hang on a minute. Let's talk about this a minute. It's okay to be completely open, okay? But at some point, if you open your bank account, it will get drawn off of. All right. So we have certain things we keep to ourselves.
That's fine.
And he's asking questions that are what's the difference the finish makes? Does polyester really make that much difference? Acrylic urethane make that much difference? Huh?
What's your pin code?
What's my pin code? Right. What's my pin code? There it is right there. What's the pin code? Right. Now, here's the credit card. What's the pin code? Absolutely, the finish makes a difference. And what kind of finish and how thick it is and all that stuff. Believe me, they don't, when they put a finish on a car, they're trying to shut it up. They are trying to shut down the sound inside that car, so they spray this very soft underbody paint on it to shut it up. Well, the opposite of that is, you know, trying to make it a noisy car. You know, in a guitar, we're trying to make it noisy, right? So it makes a difference. I really don't want to get into the details of all that, but there are some kinds of finish that sound better than others, some kinds that sound different. I don't think anybody necessarily believes that the old stuff is the best stuff. I think that it's not really soft is important, and it's not really thick is important. And with that, let's just leave it there.